The Sands Casino on the Las Vegas Strip was a cathedral of vice and virtue, where fortunes were made and lost on the turn of a card, where dreams crystallized under crystal chandeliers, and where most powerful men in America came to forget they were mortal. It was September 17th, 1958, and the autumn air outside carried the promise of cooler nights ahead. But inside the Sands, the temperature was always perfect, the drinks always cold, and the money always hot. The main showroom had been transformed for tonight's exclusive event. This wasn't open to the public. This was for the whales, the high rollers, the men who could drop $100,000 at the craps table and laugh about it over breakfast. Movie moguls sat beside oil barons. Politicians shared cigars with union bosses who everyone knew but nobody mentioned. And presiding over it all, moving through the room with the easy grace of a man who owned everything he touched, was Dean Martin. Dean wasn't just another performer at the Sands. He was part owner, part attraction, part legend. At 41 years old, he transformed himself from a working-class Italian kid from Steubenville, Ohio, into one of the most powerful entertainers in the world. He had the charm of a con man, the voice of an angel, and the business sense of a shark. People thought the drink in his hand was real. It wasn't. People thought his laid-back demeanor meant he didn't pay attention. They were wrong. Dean Martin saw everything, forgot nothing, and when he decided to act, it was with surgical precision. Tonight's event was supposed to feature Lena Salvatore, a soprano from the Metropolitan Opera who'd agreed to perform for an astronomical fee. The room was filled with men who appreciated culture, or at least appreciated being seen appreciating culture. The stage was set. The orchestra was ready. The champagne was flowing like a river of liquid gold. There was just one problem. Lena Salvatore wasn't there. Dean stood backstage, his tuxedo immaculate, his hair perfect, his expression unreadable. Jack and Tratter, the casino manager, was sweating through his shirt despite the air conditioning. Dean, she's not answering her phone. Her agent says she's sick, but between you and me, I think she got a better offer. Maybe the Tropicana, maybe... Jack. Dean interrupted, his voice soft but cutting to the manager's panic like a knife through butter. Stop talking. You're giving me a headache, and I haven't even had my first real drink yet. But Dean, we got 200 of the most important people in Nevada out there expecting world-class entertainment. We got senators, I know who we've got, Dean said, checking his cufflinks with the care of a surgeon inspecting his instruments. What we don't have is a soprano. So, we'll figure something out. We always do. But even Dean Martin, master improvisation, wasn't sure what that something would be. You couldn't just replace an opera singer on 10 minutes' notice. It wasn't like having another crooner step in. This was specialized, trained, years of technique compressed into vocal cords that could hit notes most people couldn't even hear. That's when Camila dropped the tray. The spill that changed everything. Camila Reyes had been invisible her whole life, and she'd learned to prefer it that way. At 23, she'd already experienced more loss than most people face in a lifetime. She'd learned that being noticed usually meant trouble. Being invisible meant survival. She'd been working at the Sands for 8 months, ever since arriving in Las Vegas with $17 in her pocket and memories she couldn't outrun. The work was hard but honest. The tips were decent if you smiled at the right moments and disappeared at others. She perfected the art of being simultaneously present and unseen, of anticipating needs before they were voiced, of moving to the world like smoke. Tonight, she'd been assigned to the exclusive showroom, which meant bigger tips but also more pressure. These weren't regular tourists hoping to see Frank Sinatra. These were the men who owned the city, who could make careers or break lives with a phone call. Camila had been trained to keep her eyes down, move quickly, and never, ever draw attention to herself. She'd been doing fine until she wasn't. The tray was loaded with champagne glasses, vintage Dom Perignon, that cost more per bottle than she made in a week. She was navigating between tables, her peripheral vision tracking movement patterns, when someone stood up unexpectedly. A senator from California, drunk and expansive, gesturing wildly while telling a joke. His hand caught the edge of her tray. Time slowed down the way it does in moments of catastrophe. Camila felt the tray tilt, saw the glasses beginning their inevitable slide, and made a split-second calculation. She could let the tray go and save most of the champagne, or she could try to catch it and risk total disaster. She tried to catch it. The glasses went flying. Champagne arced through the air in a perfect, terrible fountain. And Dean Martin, who'd been walking past at exactly the wrong moment, took the full force of it. The vintage Dom Perignon, worth more than Camila's monthly salary, soaked his custom-tailored tuxedo. It splashed across his perfect white shirt, his silk bow tie, his face, his perfectly styled hair. The room didn't just go quiet. It went dead. 200 conversations stopped mid-sentence. Cigarettes hung forgotten between fingers. Even the background music from the orchestra seemed to fade, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Camila stood frozen, the empty tray still in her hands, champagne dripping from her fingers onto the plush carpet. Her mind was racing through possibilities, none of them good. She'd be fired, obviously. But worse, she might be hurt. She'd heard stories about what happened to people who embarrassed powerful men in Vegas. Bodies found in the desert. People who simply disappeared. Dean Martin stood there, champagne dripping from his nose, his ruined tuxedo clinging to him like wet paper. Everyone in the room was watching, waiting to see how he'd react. Would he explode? Would he snap his fingers and have her dragged out? Would he make an example of her? He reached up slowly and wiped champagne from his face. Then he looked at Camila, really looked at her, for the first time since she'd started working at the Sands. His eyes were dark and measuring, and she couldn't read what was in them. Then Dean Martin smiled. It wasn't a cruel smile or a mocking smile. It was genuine, amused, as if something about this disaster had pleased him in a way that success never could. He looked down at his ruined tuxedo, then back at Camila, then out at the room full of powerful men waiting to see what he'd do. "Well," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the silent room, "this is a hell of a way to get my attention." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd, but it died quickly. Everyone knew this wasn't over. Camila found her voice, though it came out smaller than she'd hoped. "Mr. Martin, I'm so sorry, What's your name?" Dean interrupted, still smiling that unreadable smile. Camila Reyes, sir." "Camila," he repeated, tasting the name. "Spanish. Mexican, sir. My father was—" She stopped herself. No one here cared about her father. But Dean noticed the hesitation. He noticed everything. "Your father was what, Camila?" "He was a musician, sir, a long time ago." Dean nodded slowly, as if this explained something. He glanced backstage where Jack and Tratter was having what looked like a small heart attack, then back at Camila. "So here's our situation, Camila. We got a showroom full of very important, very bored people who were promised world-class entertainment tonight. Our scheduled performer didn't show up, which means I need to improvise. And you just gave me an idea." Camila's stomach dropped. Whatever was coming, it wouldn't be good. Dean gestured toward the stage. "You see that stage? That's where Lena Salvatore was supposed to perform tonight. She was going to sing Un bel di Vedremo from Madama Butterfly. Beautiful piece. Puccini. Very difficult. Requires years of training, perfect technique, and more courage than most people have." He paused, letting the silence build. "Here's my offer, Camila. You go up on that stage right now and sing that aria. If you can pull it off, if you can give these people a show they were promised, then we'll forget about the champagne, the tuxedo, all of it. You walk away clean, might even get a promotion." The room was so quiet you could hear ice melting in glasses. "And if I can't?" Camila whispered. Dean's smile widened. "Then you'd better hope you're a very fast runner." The challenge. Camila's mind was reeling. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of sick joke, a way to humiliate her before having her fired. Dean Martin was known for his sense of humor, but this seemed cruel even for Vegas standards. "Mr. Martin," she began, her voice shaking, "I'm a waitress." I know what you are," Dean said, cutting her off again. But his tone wasn't harsh. It was curious, probing, like he was testing something. "Question is, do you?" Around the room, men were starting to murmur. A few were laughing, thinking this was part of some elaborate joke. Others looked uncomfortable, like they were witnessing something that shouldn't be seen. The senator who'd caused the accident had retreated to his table, trying to become invisible himself. Jack and Tratter had rushed over, his face red with panic and barely suppressed rage. "Dean, what are you doing? We can't put a waitress on stage in front of—" "Jack," Dean said without taking his eyes off Camila, "how long have you known me?" 15 years, but... And in those 15 years, have I ever put on a show that disappointed? No. But Dean, this is different. She's not a performer. She's standing right here and can speak for herself. Dean turned fully to Camila now. "So speak, Camila. Tell me about your father." The musician. Camila felt 200 pairs of eyes on her. Her first instinct was to run, to apologize and flee and find another city, another life, another chance to be invisible. But something in Dean's expression stopped her. He wasn't mocking her. He was waiting, genuinely waiting, to hear what she'd say. "My father was Miguel Reyes," she said quietly. "He played trumpet, jazz mostly, but he could play anything. He performed here, actually at the Sands, about 10 years ago. He was on his way up. People said he'd be the next Louis Prima, the next." Her voice caught. She hadn't talked about this in years. Hadn't let herself remember. What happened to him? Dean asked, and his voice was gentle now. Stripped of performance. He got involved with the wrong people. Owed money to men who don't forgive debt. They said he could work it off, play for their clubs, but it was never enough. They broke his hands. She said it flatly without emotion, because emotion would crack her open, crush them so badly he could never play again. He died 2 years later. They said it was drinking, but I knew what really killed him. The room had gone quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. This wasn't anticipation of violence or entertainment. This was the uncomfortable silence of men confronting something real, something that reminded them the city they loved was built on broken dreams and broken bones. Dean nodded slowly. "And your mother?" "Gone before that. Cancer." "So you came here to what?" "Be close to where he was happy." Camila met his eyes for the first time, really met them. "I came here because I had nowhere else to go. And because he taught me something before they destroyed him. He taught me that music was the only thing they couldn't take away. Not really. He taught me to sing." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Dean's smile changed, becoming something warmer, more genuine. "You can sing." "I didn't say I could sing opera, Mr. Martin, but you can sing something." Camila hesitated. This was the moment. She could lie, say no, accept her firing and leave with whatever dignity remained. Or she could tell the truth and see where it led. "My father loved opera," she admitted. "He said jazz was his living, but opera was his soul. He used to play recordings, old 78s of Callas and Tebaldi. He'd translate the Italian for me, explain what each phrase meant. When I was little, I'd sing along. He said I had a gift, said if we ever had money, he'd get me proper training. But you never got the training." "No, sir. After he died, I worked. Hotels, diners, anywhere that would hire me. Singing was for memories, not for money." Dean was quiet for a long moment, studying her face like he was reading a map to somewhere important. Then he turned to address the room. "Gentlemen, here's what we're going to do. This young woman is going to go up on that stage and sing for you. Maybe it'll be the opera Aria. Maybe it'll be something else. Maybe it'll be wonderful. Maybe it'll be terrible. But I guarantee you'll remember it longer than you'd remember some hired soprano going through the motions." He turned back to Camila. "Last chance to run, sweetheart. Stage fright is real, and this crowd doesn't offer second chances. You go up there and fail, and it won't just be your job on the line. Your father's memory, your pride, everything you are will be on display for these vultures to pick apart. Still want to do it?" Camila looked at the stage, at the orchestra waiting in confusion, at the room full of powerful men who saw her as nothing more than a waitress who'd made a mistake. She thought about her father, about his crushed hands and broken dreams, about how he taught her that music was the one thing that couldn't be stolen. "What's the aria?" she asked. Dean's smile was brilliant. "Puccini, Un bel di vedremo. From Madama Butterfly. It's about a woman waiting for someone to return, believing against all evidence that love will triumph. Beautiful, heartbreaking, and technically one of the most difficult pieces in the soprano repertoire. You know it. My father played it so often I learned it by heart, Camila said. But Mr. Martin, I've never performed it. I've never even sung out loud since he died. Then tonight, you sing it for him, Dean said simply. You sing it for Miguel Reyes, and you show every man in this room what they took when they broke your father. You show them what real talent looks like. He offered his arm, champagne-soaked and ruined. Shall we? The voice that silenced Vegas. The walk to the stage felt like walking to an execution. Camila's legs threatened to give out with each step. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to clasp them together. Behind her, she could hear the murmur of the crowd, some amused, some skeptical, some already placing bets on how quickly this would turn into disaster. Dean led her to the stage stairs, then stopped. He leaned in close, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Listen to me, Camila. In about 30 seconds, you're going to be standing in front of the most ruthless audience in the world. They're going to judge you before you open your mouth. They're going to want you to fail, because failure is more entertaining than success. But here's what they don't know. He turned her to face him, his hands on her shoulders, his eyes locked on hers. They don't know that you've already survived worse than anything they can throw at you. You watched your father destroyed. You lost everything and kept going. You came to this city alone and made it work. That takes more courage than singing a song. So, don't think about them. Don't think about me. Think about Miguel. Think about those nights when he played the recordings and you sang along. Think about what music meant to both of you. He released her shoulders, stepped back, and his voice returned to its normal volume, carrying to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Miss Camila Reyes, who will be performing for us tonight. Polite applause, scattered and skeptical. Camila climbed the stairs, each step feeling like a mile. The stage lights were blinding, turning the audience into a sea of shadows and glowing cigarette tips. The orchestra members looked confused, waiting for direction. The conductor, a veteran named Irving Mills who'd worked with everyone from Sinatra to Ella Fitzgerald, approached her cautiously. Miss, do you have sheet music? No, Camila whispered, but I know the piece. Untold di Vidrimo. Irving's eyebrows shot up. You know it? That's a Met-level aria. I know what it is, Camila said, and something in her voice made him stop questioning. Can your orchestra play it? Young lady, my orchestra can play anything. Question is, can you sing it? We're about to find out. Irving studied her for a moment, then nodded and returned to the conductor's podium. He raised his baton, looked back at Camila one more time, and when she nodded, brought the orchestra to life. The opening notes of Puccini's masterpiece filled the showroom. It's a deceptive beginning, gentle and almost playful, giving no hint of the emotional devastation to come. Camila stood at the microphone, her cheap waitress uniform stained with champagne, her hair falling out of its practical bun, her hands still trembling. She closed her eyes and thought about her father. When she opened her mouth to sing, what came out silenced every doubt in the room. Her voice was pure and powerful, cutting through the smoke and skepticism like a blade made of light. The first phrase, Untold di Vidrimo, soared effortlessly, technically perfect but emotionally raw. This wasn't a trained soprano performing for approval. This was a daughter singing for her father, pouring years of grief and love and loss into every note. The room transformed. Men who'd been checking their watches sat forward in their chairs. Conversations stopped mid-word. Cigarettes burned forgotten in ashtrays. Even the dealers at the nearby tables paused in their work, drawn by something they couldn't name but couldn't ignore. Camila sang about one fine day, about waiting for a ship to return, about believing in love when all evidence suggests love is a lie. But she wasn't singing about some fictional Japanese bride. She was singing about hope in the face of destruction, about dignity in the face of humiliation, about the refusal to surrender, even when surrender seems like the only rational choice. Her voice climbed the challenging intervals with ease, hit the money notes with power that made the chandeliers ring. The aria builds and builds, moving from gentle optimism to desperate faith, to transcendent certainty, and Camila navigated every shift like she'd been performing it all her life. In the wings, Jack and Tratter stood with his mouth open, unable to process what he was hearing. Dean Martin leaned against the wall, his ruined tuxedo forgotten, a small smile on his face. He'd known. Somehow, he'd known what was hidden inside this waitress. As Camila approached the final phrases, the room held its breath. The last notes of Un Bel di Vedremo are deceptive, starting strong but ending soft, fading into faith rather than certainty. She sang them with her eyes still closed, no longer performing for the audience, but for the memory of a man who believed in beauty even as the world destroyed him. The final note hung in the air, pure and perfect and heartbreaking. Then silence. Absolute, total silence. Camila opened her eyes, terrified she'd somehow failed, that the silence was judgment rather than awe. She saw 200 faces staring at her, frozen, as if she'd cast a spell, and they were waiting for permission to break free. Then Dean Martin started clapping. It started as one pair of hands, crisp and clear and deliberate. Then another joined in. Then 5 more. Then 10. Then the entire room erupted. Men leaped to their feet. Senators and mobsters, oil barons and Hollywood producers, united in genuine, thunderous applause. Some were crying, actual tears running down the faces of men who hadn't cried since childhood. Because Camila hadn't just sung well. She'd reminded them of something they'd forgotten in their climb to power and wealth. She'd reminded them what it felt like to be human. The ovation went on for 7 minutes. 7 full minutes of applause that grew louder rather than fading, as if the audience couldn't quite believe what they'd witnessed and needed to confirm it was real by making more noise. Dean walked onto the stage, still applauding. He put his arm around Camila's shoulders, and she collapsed against him, legs finally giving out, adrenaline draining away in a flood of relief and disbelief. "Still worried about the champagne?" he asked, his voice warm with amusement. "I don't understand," Camila managed. "Why? Why did you do this?" "Because I saw something in your eyes when you talked about your father," Dean said simply. "Because talent like yours doesn't stay hidden. Because sometimes, Camila, the universe gives you a chance to right an old wrong." He turned to the orchestra. "Maestro Irving, I think we found our new headliner. Secrets in the spotlight." After the show, Dean led Camila not to the employee area, but to his private office on the top floor of the Sands. It was decorated in the style that powerful men favored in the late 50s. Dark wood, leather chairs, awards, and photographs covering the walls. Pictures of Dean with presidents, with other performers, with the men who really ran Las Vegas. Camila, still in her stained uniform, felt desperately out of place. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by exhaustion and a creeping awareness of how her life had just changed in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Dean poured 2 glasses of actual whiskey, not the apple juice he usually pretended was bourbon on stage. He handed one to Camila. "Drink," he said. "You've earned it." "Mr. Martin, I don't understand what just happened. Call me Dean. And what happened is simple. You revealed yourself. Can't put that genie back in the bottle now." Camila sipped the whiskey, coughed, then sipped again. "My father used to say that Vegas was the most honest place in America because it didn't pretend to be anything but what it was. He said the real danger wasn't the gambling or the drinking. It was the way the city could make you forget who you were." "Your father was a smart man," Dean said, settling into his chair. "Tell me more about what happened to him. You said he owed money to the wrong people." "It was almost 10 years ago. He'd been performing regularly at the Last Frontier. He was good, really good, but he liked to gamble, and he wasn't good at that. He got in deep with a lone shark, a man named Victor Benedetti." Dean's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Benedetti, you know him?" "I know of him. He's dead now. Killed in Chicago 5 years back. But when he was alive, he ran protection rackets across half the strip. If your father owed him money..." Benedetti said Dad could work it off. Special performances, private parties for Benedetti's associates. But the terms kept changing. The debt kept growing. Dad was basically performing for free, trapped. Camila's hands tightened around her glass. Then one night, he tried to leave. Just pack up and go back to Mexico. Start over. Benedetti's men found him at the bus station. They broke both his hands with a hammer. 19 bones, the doctor said. They did it in an alley where no one would hear. And the police? Camila laughed bitterly. The police took a report and did nothing. Everyone knew Benedetti owned half the department. My father couldn't play anymore, couldn't work, couldn't do anything but drink and wait to die. I was 13 years old, watching my father destroy himself because his hands didn't work anymore. Dean was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was measured. Benedetti's operation didn't die with him. It got absorbed, reorganized. The protection rackets are still running, just under different management. You know who runs them now. No, a man named Julius Moroni. He's smarter than Benedetti, more careful. He's diversified beyond simple loan sharking. Now he's got his fingers in talent management, booking agents, entertainment contracts. He finds performers with debt or desperation, offers them a way out, then owns them. Why are you telling me this? Dean leaned forward. Because 3 weeks ago, Julius Moroni approached me about buying into Sands. Not openly, but through intermediaries. He wants legitimate ownership of entertainment venues. Wants to control who performs and where. And Camila, if a man like that gets control of the major showrooms in Vegas, every performer becomes his property, just like your father was. Camila felt cold despite the whiskey. What does this have to do with me? You just became valuable, Dean said bluntly. That performance downstairs? Word is already spreading. By tomorrow morning, every entertainment reporter in the country will be asking who you are. Moroni will hear about it, and he'll want to own you. Then I'll say no. It's not that simple. Men like Moroni don't accept no. They find leverage. They find debts, family members, anything they can use. You're alone in this city with no protection, no connections, no money. You're exactly the kind of target he specializes in. So what do I do? Camila asked, hearing the fear in her own voice. Run again? Disappear? Dean smiled, but it wasn't a charming stage smile. This was something sharper, more calculating. Or you could let me protect you. Stay here at the Sands. Become our feature performer. Sign a contract that makes it very clear you're under my management, my protection. Moroni won't touch anyone I've claimed. Why would you do that? You don't know me. I know enough. I know you've got talent and courage. I know you're Miguel Reyes' daughter, and I know what Benedetti's organization did to your family. And Camila, I'm going to let you in on a secret. He leaned back in his chair. I'm not just an entertainer. I own pieces of this place, and I have friends who own pieces of other places. I have influence, connections, power, and I've been looking for a way to shut down Moroni's operation without starting a war that would hurt innocent people. You want to use me as bait. I want to use you as a weapon, Dean corrected. Moroni controls performers through fear and debt. But if we have a performer who's successful, protected, and untouchable, it proves the system isn't absolute. Other performers will see that there's an alternative. His power starts to crack. Camila stared at him. That's a dangerous game. Yes, it is. And I won't lie to you, Camila. There will be risks. Moroni will push back. He'll try to find ways to get to you, to hurt you, to prove he's still in control. But you'll have me watching your back, and you'll have the platform to build a career that no one can take away. Your talent deserves that much. She thought about her father, about broken hands and broken dreams, about the city that had destroyed him, about the chance to turn that destruction into something else. If I do this, she said slowly, I want complete honesty. No games, no secrets. You tell me everything about Moroni, about the risks, about what we're really doing. And I want control over my performances. I'll sing what I want, when I want. I won't be anyone's puppet. Dean's smile was genuine now. Deal. Welcome to the Sands. Camila, your father will be proud. Partnership forged in fire. The next 3 months transformed Camila from an invisible waitress into one of the most talked about performers in Las Vegas. Dean kept his word about protection and honesty, but he also demanded excellence. He hired the best voice coach in the city, a retired Metropolitan Opera soprano named Margaretchen, who'd survive her own battles with the industry's darker side. "You have raw talent," Margaret told Camila during their first session. "But raw talent gets you one performance. Technique gets you a career." They worked 6 hours a day, every day, breathing exercises until Camila's ribs ached, scales until the notes lived in her muscle memory. Margaret was merciless, stopping Camila mid-phrase to correct the placement of a single note, the shape of a vowel, the support of a breath. "Again," Margaret would say. "Always again. Always push harder." But alongside the vocal training, Dean taught Camila something else: how to read a room, how to hold power through presence, how to turn performance into transformation. He taught her that singing wasn't about hitting notes. It was about making people feel things they'd forgotten they could feel. "Watch their eyes," he'd tell her during rehearsals. "The moment you lose their eyes, you've lost the room. And once you lose a Vegas audience, you never get them back." Dean also introduced her to the other side of the business, the negotiations, the contracts, the careful balance of power that kept the strip running. He let her sit in on meetings with Jack and Tratter about booking schedules and promotional strategies. He taught her to recognize when someone was lying, when a deal was real, when danger was approaching disguised as opportunity. "Knowledge is protection," he explained. "Your father didn't have knowledge. He had talent, but that wasn't enough. In this city, you need both." 3 weeks after Camila's impromptu debut, Julius Maroney made his move. He didn't come himself. He sent an intermediary, a smooth-talking agent named Richard Kowalski, who appeared at the Sands with a briefcase full of contracts and promises. "Miss Reyes," Kowalski said, his smile too wide and too practiced, "I represent Stellar Entertainment Management. We handle some of the biggest names in the business. Sinatra, Martin, Monroe. We'd like to offer you a management contract that would make you very wealthy." They were in one of the Sands conference rooms. Dean sat beside Camila, saying nothing, just watching. "I already have management," Camila said. "Mr. Martin represents me." "With all respect to Mr. Martin," Kowalski said, his smile never wavering, "he's a performer, not a full-time manager. We have resources, connections, venues across the country. We can make you a national star within 6 months." "What's the percentage?" Dean asked quietly. "Standard industry rates. 50% of all performance fees, 60% of recording royalties." "That's not standard," Dean said. "That's theft. That's the market rate for unproven talent," Kowalski countered. "Miss Reyes had one good performance. That doesn't make her a star." "Walk away, Richard," Dean said, his voice hardening. "Tell Maroney that Camila isn't available." For just a moment, Kowalski's smile slipped. The mention of Maroney's name confirmed what Dean already knew. Then the smile was back, broader than ever. "I don't know anyone named Maroney. I'm simply offering Miss Reyes an opportunity. The opportunity to be owned," Dean said,